gallery as well. We look like the Brady Bunch. So
Nice.
Oh, versus last time? I liked last time. Got a lot of details.
It was
Right.
good. It was good.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, this is the behind the scenes, but now we're going to go into the scenes.
In this episode of the Dorkcast, we invited in Tauhira Ali and Josh Bone to talk about the ways the dorks are trying to push through our awkward adolescence as we find our voice within the industry. This was yet another fun conversation that took some interesting turns and twists organically as we share our thoughts on the industry and where it is headed. We hope you enjoy and encourage you to join live next time.
And welcome to the Dorks Strike Back, our next episode in this fantastic voyage that is the Dorkcast. I'm digging Jonathan Marsh and Trent really, embracing the Star Wars theme there and putting things up behind them. Travis, since in this, what'd you call it, view we've got here, the it went out of my head.
The gallery view?
The gallery view of the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch view.
Yeah.
You are to my left, so you're going to go first, and
Which
that's the
side?
kind of day I'm having. So
All right. Yeah.
take it away.
So, my background, if you're not familiar, is Shaun of the Dead. It's a tongue-in-cheek zombie movie. Today I was like, what do I want to do for my background? So I just Googled nerdy backgrounds, and that's what I picked. So hopefully, if you haven't seen this movie, it's an incredible movie. I highly recommend it, and then we'll go have a pint at the Winchester. So you have to watch that movie to get the reference. Today, out of solidarity with Miss Ali, I'm drinking homebrewed kombucha. So alcohol free today. So my own mixture. It's I used black tea, honey, and then I did a secondary bottling with some raspberry and ginger. So nice and healthy, good for the gut biome.
Exceptionally fancy as well.
Yeah.
All right, Trent, why don't you take it away since you're on the other side of that crisscross?
All right. Sounds like a plan. Well, I've got one from 18th Street Brewery. This one's kind of funky. It's called Number 2 Pencil. I can get and the can art actually has a Scantron that the guy's filling out. So for those of you that remember what a Scantron is. So, it's a double dry hopped, double IPA, which I have no idea what that means, but it tastes good. So.
That's awesome. Jonathan, from what looks like the cockpit of, are we in an X-Wing?
No.
Oh, you're Vader.
You're in an X-Wing. No, we're totally in an X-Wing.
You're in an X-Wing. I was going to say, wait a minute.
You're talking about
over
things
your
that
head.
make you lose your dork card. But no. So today I actually went with a homemade too. So I have dandelion mead. So, and it's from bees that are down the street and from dandelions from the backyard. And it was like in 2016, we went out and made it up. So it's been sitting there for a long time, but I thought I'd have it. It's nice and sweet, and it's a summer day here. And this is Erie, so we don't get a lot of summer. We get a lot of snow. So I'm going to enjoy it while I have it.
Is that good for your local allergies, Jonathan?
You know what? I don't know, but maybe that's the reason that I don't have as many. I'm going to say that it definitely is, and that's why I drink it. That's exactly what I'm going to
You're
go
so resilient.
Totally worth the swelling. It's awesome.
We digress. This is what's going to happen with 6 of us on today.
That's right.
All right. Well, I am actually in honor. I want to go riding later. You can't see it. Oh, you can't see it. So I'm drinking a sparkling water as well. This is my grapefruit one, which I'm not a grapefruit fan, but I have figured out in sparklings, I love it because it's actually like an actual citrusy fruit flavor. It doesn't taste like straight up grapefruit. So it's become my new favorite thing right now. And yes, the spiked ones are good as well. So that's me. Joining us today from Nika, Josh Bone. What do you got going on? Where are you joining us from? It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, so I'm home. I've been home. I've not traveled since I came home the morning of March the 13th, and I've been home since March the 13th. And I'm going a little crazy. I'm a little stir crazy right now. It is Groundhog Day for me. Thank God, I've got 2 jobs right now as the interim executive director of Electri, put together a pandemic report in 6 weeks, and getting ready for our virtual summer meeting that goes on next week, in the midst of all these other presentations and everything else, on top of everything that we're doing with innovation. And we're doing a big KPI study right now, really hammering out some data, looking at how we can create a national standards database and what we can do to learn around this at NECA. And it's very, very exciting. We're starting with absenteeism and just starting there to see, and we're not weaponizing the data. We are putting it out there to understand, is it something that our contractors are doing incorrectly on the NECA side? And do they have the proper PPE? Do they have the things that they need to feel safe? Do they have the materials? Do they have the tools? So we're really trying to balance this out with IBW and NECA and just see what we can learn. So we've got so many irons in the fire right now. It's hard to keep up.
You're one of the few guys I know in life that can get grounded completely, not leave, and get busier. So and more to follow. I'm really excited to be able to announce and introduce. And Josh, I don't know if you had chance to get a drink. If you don't, feel free. But to announce and welcome Tauhira Ali to the show. So thanks for joining us, Tauhira from Milwaukee Tool.
Why, thank you. I'm so excited to be here, joining you from, surprise, surprise, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we also are having a rare summer day. You can see my background of the corner of my house. So that keeps it pretty clean in terms of background visitors for the Zoom meetings. And I am drinking today a mango, very ethnic, very one of those like from the Asian or Indian grocery stores, one of those mango tropical drinks. Least you forget that I am indeed from the Caribbean.
You are.
So this is what I brought to share. I am born on an island with a volcano. So came here to change the world.
That's what this is all about, right?
One
That's what this is
construction
all.
job site at a time, right?
That's right.
Exactly. So bringing a little bit more summer to the show. Alas, not spiked because between being Muslim and then also being 32 weeks pregnant, it's not a good look for that right now.
It's frowned upon, I think.
So,
Well,
very excited to do this.
congratulations for
Oh,
the
thank
32
you.
weeks pregnant. I found that out yesterday, so it's exciting to hear. And
Congratulations.
thanks for
I'm-
taking the time to
Tauhira,
join us.
my daughter is gonna get CPR certified and everything, so she's gonna be all ready for you to, we'll just drive her up to Milwaukee and do some babysitting.
Exactly. We already have a plan for those of you who already have children. Get ready because when the conferences open up again, I will be bringing my young one for your young ones to babysit. So plan accordingly. And in the meantime, I'll be 3D printing this baby as fast as I can.
Nicely done.
Which is a fun segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is, we've been doing every other show, guys, is sort of the evolution one, telling the origin story and the future stories of what the dorks and the construction dorks really are. And then, covering those hot topics that we really want to cover, which we've done LOD and how you've taken Excel and removed it from your company and done something new with it. So, and now we're kind of back to that origin story, but we brought these two folks on because, well, I don't think they're commonly associated completely with the construction dorks, more of the grown-up version of it. And the out in front version of it. And we wanted to talk about the evolution. And I know, Josh, you were a part of, the Contech episode that sort of was the spur behind the construction dorks hashtag getting started. But did you ever see it going where it is? And how do you define it right now?
Gosh, that's no. I feel like I stumble into it every day with something new, and I'm surprised that we've gotten to a point that we can do something like this and have built the community that we have along the way over all of these years. We've all kind of found a way that there's somehow been some kind of magnet there that we all have something in us that is pulling us in this direction, and as it's pulling us, it's kind of raising the tide. And no, I mean, I started doing BIM and so long ago before it was we were still 3D modeling, and I didn't expect it to be what it is and what goes behind it now, and the importance and being this hub of all construction technology. And then to think about where we are with a podcast and the construction dorks. And when DJ said that, it was just organic. It was just natural. It was, letting him kind of what DJ does really well, talk, just let him go, set him up and let him run. And that's what DJ did. And the hashtag started trending, and we here we are today. It's amazing to think about that one phrase resonated with so many of us, and has just caught wind and turned in. I talk about it all the time when I'm speaking. Search hashtag construction dork.
Yeah, we tell people that all the time. Tauhira, I mean, talk to me about what it's meant for you.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that, especially for me, has been interesting is some of you know this, but for many of you, many of you might not be aware that I spent many years behind the scenes. So if you look at a lot of Milwaukee Tools products, a lot of our drills, a lot of saws, a lot of lights, a lot of our, kind of basically every business unit within Milwaukee, I spent years in R&D actually designing the products. So learning how to hand wind motors, learning how to make the Bluetooth sequences for one key. So early on, I was an avid dork. And even before that, many years ago, we were talking a little bit about our origin stories. Many, many years ago, one of the first things I did, and as a teenager, really as an 11-year-old, was learn to draft by hand. So I've always been kind of gearing myself up to join this amazing community. And what's really powerful, I think, is just, for all the technology, for all the really great innovations and the way that things have advanced, it's all about the people, right? It's what we can do and what we can really elevate in the industry when we're able to work together. And that's something that's so powerful to be able to build on and be a part of. And so, that's the thing that's really, I think, brought us together, both in our work and then in our personal lives as well.
Well, you kind of bring up a good point there, like these kind of mix. And, for a little fun and transparency, I was having trouble getting things started today. And so we started this webinar, and we let everybody in right away. So people were hearing the background thing. And what we were talking about is we do all talk both personally and professionally. And it's been kind of this cool mix of all that coming together. I think most of the dorks pretty much live this life. It's not just something we do, right?
It's not Hollywood. It's not Hollywood.
No, unless you're talking about Hollywood BIM, right, Josh?
Yeah, exactly. That's the only, it's, and those people aren't doing it right if they're doing the Hollywood BIM. So
that's right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any feedback from the guys on what this construction dork, where it started and where it's going?
Well, I wanted to, give Josh a little pat on the back because, talking more behind the scenes stuff as we talked about on the episode with DJ and Nathan, that we were talking, DJ's like, we got to have our own event. We got to start doing our own thing. And, like we just said, we're texting, we're talking back and forth. I was talking with Josh a lot, and he and Nathan really took it and pushed me, took me from a, not necessarily passive, but not super sure what to do with it all. And it kind of just forced it out there to again, kind of talk about having our own event, talk about growing up, talking about getting in front of Nika, MCA, and Milwaukee, and DeWalt, and all the right players to say, you know what, we think we have some pretty good people with some pretty good ideas, and let's really get it out there. So I really have to thank Josh for that. Thank Nathan again for that, because the CPC helps give us some credit, has the not-for-profit backup, and to our own credit, people are starting to listen. So I have to thank both of you for that.
Oh, thank you, Travis. I mean, listen, I love and respect all of you here on this. This is, I do. And we all listen to each other. And I think that so many times, Jonathan has to talk to me and tell me things 7 times. I'm the slowest one out of the group by far. And it takes me 7 times of hearing it before I start to come along, but I'm always open to hearing what all of you say, because that is what drives me. I love helping people. And getting to work with other people like all of you, that's what we're here for. You're right. We're here to help each other. That's what gets us up and gets us going every day. Some of us are educators. Some of us are just, we've got different skills that we bring, and use those to help this industry that we all love so much.
You know what I found really interesting about the Dorks, and Tauhira touched on it, was almost everybody that I meet that sort of self-identifies that way has been in the weeds for a really long time. Like they might be talking about generalizations when they're talking to everybody else, but if you go ask them like some really specific nerd level question, they will spend 15 minutes explaining exactly how that works. Because right before they did all this, they were doing everything anyway. So it's sort of like, most of the time, I think when the construction dorks get together, you know, we talk publicly at these events and we talk at this level of sort of generals, and then we go and sit together after it and talk so nerd that most people probably have no idea what we're talking about, because we were in the weeds and we do know, you know, we accidentally were sending each other texts in all caps this morning because we were working. You know, everybody who works VDC and BIM knows you accidentally leave your cap locks on. So it sounds like you're yelling every time you text anyone.
I think that's why we started this live, because Trent was yelling at me. But then he clicks back. I'm not yelling. I'm working remotely. Or I'm working. But
Right.
I read it. It was like, I'm not yelling. I'm panicking. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to start this. So
We just live very intensely, is I think what it is.
Passionate, right?
Yeah, a strong sense of urgency.
Yes. Yes.
You brought up something cool there though, Jonathan, and that's sort of the idea behind this show, was to give us all a spot where we could go deeper and wider and not really have to worry, because I think as all of us take these ideas outside and turn them towards the masses, I don't want to use dumbing down because that's really the wrong word for it. We have to make it consumable, and we have to take our time so that they can consume it and can get on the bus with us. It takes a little while longer. So this is more for the people already on the bus that already get it. So Tauhira, I kind of wanted to spin to you because, you know, we haven't had anybody from the tool side of things, and with your perspective on, so how do you see something like this movement benefiting the industry and benefiting what you do?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is what's really powerful. And you hit the nail on the head just a moment ago with the accessibility of bringing, all of these big ideas and being able to separate the buzzwords from what actually matters and bringing them to the industry. And from our perspective, and I know this is all about coming without your brand, but just from the perspective of Milwaukee Tool as a whole, what's been really wonderful is, it's not about what tool can we shove in people's hands or what can we do to drive the best, the best battery powered whatever to be able to elevate. It's about how do we elevate the people at their core. And I think that's the thing that unites all of us, is that we're not looking to say, use this software or use this hardware. We're looking to say, what are the processes that are giving you pains? What are the pain points that we're all living through? And, whether it's a culture thing, whether it's a productivity thing, whether it's a safety thing, we're all here to just kind of aggregate and again, be able to raise that tide for everyone. And I think that's been something that's united us all, is that we're all very, we come with different backgrounds, and we come, as manufacturers, we come as consultants, we come as subject matter experts from all facets of the industry, but it's all about how can we bring those talents together to make something better for all of us, and not just for us, but most importantly for those who are the craft workers, who are the contractors, who are living and breathing the industry. And that to me is the part that's so rewarding, right? Is when you go and you talk to someone and you hear them talk about the skyline that they made. It's not about the building that they built, it's about the school, it's about the church, it's about the hospital, it's about the mosque. And so that's really what's, I think, the driving force and the unifier between all of us, is we're all looking at this from the standpoint of how do we help people build better, stronger, safer communities.
That was really well said. And Josh, beautiful. I know that breeds to you with Nika and what you're doing.
Yeah, guys, that led me to hear about a couple of things. I look back at history, and in these unprecedented times, at the economic downturn of 2008, leadership gets much harder, and you find leaders forced to get out on a ledge and start to think in new ways and try some new things, because we are in uncharted waters today with this pandemic. And they start to turn to people like us who are passionate about what we do. We've done our research, we've done our homework, we believe in the message that we're out there spreading, and they turn to us and they give us an opportunity in these times to lead in a way and help guide them through this process, because it's no longer safe to be a leader. That you can't play it safe right now. And I know a lot of our construction dork friends are going to be now given that opportunity. And one of the things I love so much about the construction dorks is I've come full circle in my career, starting with architects, engineers, owners, the GC side of this. And I came to the trades much later in my career. And I think, man, we always get it. You and Nathan and I and Travis, we were all there together. And a number of us were there in Phoenix. We were doing that roundtable discussion with Kurt. We were going through and somebody raised their hands like, who? And I specifically asked, okay, we only need the important people. Who are those important people? And they went and they said, they went through the list of everybody. But I said, well, what about the trades? You left them off. No, they're not important. And we were, whoa, 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 whoa. It is one of those things that I'm so excited to think about these getting an opportunity to work more closely with the trades going forward. I think it's going to help from share that common language of really the challenges that we face out in the field. I think that's where the construction dorks have migrated from. We understand that this happens in the field. We can plan and do all these amazing things, but the architects and engineers, we can't, if they can't get it executed, then no one's going to be successful. And a lot of people are still going through that process of getting to where they need to be to understand how important the trades are in this process.
I think that's a good point. And I'm going to jump on a phrase that Jeff uses all the time, is that the human API. So sometimes, we talk about Tauhira talked about diversity of backgrounds and everything like that. And there's some of us that are the nitty gritty doers, hands-on in the stuff. Then we have the people that like me, that are probably like the 60% or the really good sounding boards that throws a one phrase in that kind of galvanizes the idea. But then we also have the human API of connecting people up. But there's also that transfer of information, like Josh was saying, like Trent and Jonathan and I are in these roles with companies in the field doing stuff, and we have that kind of information, and it is good for us to provide that pass through on up through the rest of the project team, and it's only going to make those projects better. It's only going to make the rest of the industry better.
Well, I think something that Trent, you and Travis touched on in a previous episode, the idea of making it real, right? The idea of taking people who are working in, whether it's interns or full-time hires who are in VDC and BIM, bringing them out to the field. And that's something that I think, again, very early in my career as a product designer was critical, right? Is you can't design what's the best tool for you. And I think that's true in everything we do. We're not designing for ourselves. We're designing for a whole different audience that's coming at this with a whole different background. And Jonathan, you lived it in the trades, and now you live it even more elevated because now you're representing so many companies, and it's just really so powerful to see. It's not about what we want. It's about, the real life people who are building these buildings and who are actually going out and having to deal with when things don't go as smoothly as the workflow is intended. So I think that's a really powerful part too, right? And that's how we continue to engage and elevate and get more people to fall in love with this industry.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I'll piggyback on that too, because when I took over my role at North Mechanical, kind of the way they handled VDC was it wasn't prized or prided on to the point, and it was a small department, and basically they were coordinating or doing this for fabrication, but they didn't have that field connection all the time, and they were doing things that were getting it off their plate the fastest. Efficiency was like, well, I got that done way faster. And some PMs have the same mentality. It's like, how do I get my piece done? But then, me coming into the role with the field, I've got the field link, and I'm thinking, it's not about that. It's about what's faster out there with 30 guys. How are those 30 people going to get it done faster? It's not about me in front of the computer getting done faster. So that's, an important mentality, and we're kind of pushing that. And now I see the company taking on that mentality. You see more PMs thinking that way. You see people in the office thinking that way. So,
Trent, you hit on it. I think it's kind of critical there too. What got me about the Dorks and all the stuff going on in the back of the show, so to speak, or in the hallways, was some of the passionate fighting about all these people are standing up there talking about it, but they're not living it in the field, and they're not really hands-on. They're not really getting it. And I got lucky early on in my career figuring that out, and having some of the same experiences in different spaces actually than each of you guys. Mine was in the ski world, and it was really interesting to have that same feedback. And I think that's why it was important. And what I want to know, Josh, is like, how do you see that moving forward? That is, this becomes something that's, I want to call it structured, because this is unstructured, structured data, I guess, is what we all are here. But as we move forward, how do we maintain that unstructured, but get structured and continue to stay true to the roots?
It goes back to the lessons that Jonathan has taught me for a long time. Lonnie Compton lives by this. Trent, it just brought it up, and he lives by it too, is I think what we always have to make sure that we do is think about the field. We've got to make sure that people process technology. We integrate technology to make sure that we are thinking about workflows. So often it's easy to get attracted to that shiny object and the augmented reality and some of those things. But if it's not practical and it doesn't integrate into our workflows, that's the real challenge is finding those, building that tech stack from the ground up. I wonder now, to some of us, kind of how do we take that next step? Because I look at where we are on the electrical side, and everything is very new for us. It's fertile ground, and we can build a foundation right now and move up. I've worked with all of you on the mechanical side, and as I'm looking at you, you guys have been doing this a long time, and a lot's changed in the world in the 10 years that you've made some adoptions, and you got to knock down some of those walls and start back up, or find a way to integrate in, and you got to have that mindset of standardization through this process. Because if you can't standardize this data and not have to do tons of work on top of it, man, you are making you're adding a lot of work to your plate. And when you do that, you're not looking in real time. You're starting to look backwards with all work that you add onto that plate. And now you're looking a week back in that process. Now you're a month behind because you don't have visibility into what's happening. Man, that thing can snowball real quick and get out of hand if you don't have a good plan going forward.
Tauhira, can you expand on that? Because how are we maintaining that route? And listening to what Josh is saying is, we've got to take that field first view. How do you always keep that in sight?
Again, for me, it's this beautiful process where you have to have the people first, and you have to think about what are their pain points, right? And this is something I think all of you have seen me preach about and lead workshops and work with all of you on, is this idea of before you even get to the technology, before you even get to the shiny new headset or the exoskeleton or the machine language, you have to think about who are the people you're championing and advocating for, and also what are they experiencing? What's their workflow, and what are those problems looking like? And then and even beyond that, one of the things that you asked about, Jeff, is how do we scale this? How do we keep this going, not just between us, but how do we keep this going as a community? And such a big part of that is elevating people from within, right? Being welcoming to the next generation, the new people at the conference, because let's face it, we all know each other. So when new people come in, giving them that opportunity to have a voice and to have a community, because by giving them that opportunity, they get to become the pioneers, and they get to become the people who we were, and also the people who are going to outpace us. And we want people smarter than us. That's, I think, the trick to this. We want them all to be better than us.
The Padawans.
Yeah.
Exactly
go.
on theme. It was all there.
That's
and that's what's so important, is because it's about us, but it's also about the people who can elevate and surpass us, again, to help map those pain points, map those workflows. How many times have I can't tell you the numbers of times that I've referenced Jonathan Marsh and Josh Bones, massive VDC workflow to talk about, what are the pain points, what are the blind spots, what are those areas, because that's how you aggregate it, and that's how you shake it up to find those good opportunities.
You both hit on it, and I think I've tried to do this myself, but I never thought about passing it on to this group. But for everybody listening and everybody on the show, take the time to grab somebody and bring them along with us. This
Don't
movement.
physically.
Not physically. Well, you can't right now anyway.
Right?
If you did, you're breaking social distance, so you got other rules to follow. But virtually grab them and drag them along with this. He's not on today, but I spoke in front of a group, and a young guy reached out to me about it, and I was like, "How do you join? You just join. Like, just come on." And if we were at a show, it would be just like, "Well, come on, this is where we're all hanging out. Come into this hallway conversation." I mean, I think Josh, we remember when Walker Lockhart did that to us, right? When we were at the crew, it was at MCAA Tech 4 years ago in Austin. Yeah. The famed site of the rickshaw incident.
Gosh.
That story will never go.
Nope. You can look up on another show somewhere else.
Oh my gosh.
But we do. And Tauhira, I know that, diversity and changing of thought, we had this conversation yesterday, is huge. And I think I want to define that a little bit more openly too, of like, diversity is everything, right? There's not one thing that you should pin diversity down on. Diversity is background, it's experience, it's all of that, and we need to be reaching outside of here. You came from outside, so I think you have that feeling of what it's like to come from outside of this industry and come into it.
Well, and it's also too, it's funny because I'll be tapped on a lot to believe it or not, give a lot of talks about diversity in this industry. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is, I'll come up there and I'll talk about diversity of age, or diversity of trade, or diversity of which geographical location you're from. And I remember one year at AU, I gave a talk about diversity in the industry. And I talk about what the Southwest US is doing versus like the Midwest and then the Northeast and the Southeast. And then someone came up to me afterwards and was like, "Good talk. There's the rest of the world too. This is a global conference." But it's the truth, right? And that's what's so powerful is, it's not just about, the diversity of the simple labels we can use, but especially now we're seeing more and more with everything going on in our country and in the world today, is that, there are some really big, hard conversations that we can start to bridge. And if we don't look them in the face, we'll never be able to create those opportunities for equality, and never be able to create those opportunities for everyone to be able to escalate and contribute. But also, this is where technology helps us, right? It opens the door to non-traditional people, non-traditional backgrounds, and bringing everyone into being able to help and contribute in really valid ways to this industry.
I think that you touched on it too, is that technology is a way to connect, but it's also been an interesting way to recruit. I've done a couple of talks at schools and stuff like that. I went in there. I was supposed to be wearing my computer programmer hat, but I was already working for mechanical at that point. And I've always kind of said that, construction has a PR problem. So when I was going in and talking to these kids and stuff, and I'm showing them all the cool stuff we do, then you do open up that audience more to, it's really hard to sometimes fill that, or to grow that diversity if your funnel is really small, right? So we got to fill that funnel with as many people getting interested into construction, into technology, and then the ones that really get it, really embrace it, and really want to run with it, they're just going to naturally be there.
It's interesting. That was, if anybody's heard me, that's one of my first wins ever in construction technology, was bringing I built a headset thinking that, BIM was the future and VR was the future of masonry, which I'm going to say, I think that was still ahead of its time. Maybe for quite a while too. However, when we actually rolled it out and brought it to a school, we had a line of kids line up, and you're right, Travis, not all of them ended up coming to us, but we had a huge group of them that joined the summer internship program. And, some of them were the first ones I could put a phone in their hand, and it just wasn't scary. So, that there is that. And Josh, I'm going to take the diversity talk and bring it to you, because I know some of the things you guys are doing at Nika, and I want to take diversity to, like, you have data people. Imagine that discipline.
Yeah.
In
So
our
I want
world.
to say something though first. It
Please.
says a lot about our industry and a lot about you as a person, Jeff. When they have people leading diversity talks in our industry and it's a white guy named Jeff Sample, I'm not so sure what that says about our industry or the fact that you're just super diverse. And I mean, it just in the mindset. So I that's a
It's all up
compliment,
here.
buddy. That's right.
Well,
It's a compliment.
Thank you very much. And it's funny because Tauhira and I did have that conversation yesterday. And for those of you, interested in it, that's the one thing is I do look like they don't see me coming. That I think is the beauty of it, Josh. They don't see me coming, but the idea is to kick open the door and then let everybody else run through it. And that's what I love. I mean, that's how Tauhira, how you and I met, and how I've met most of you guys, is just talking and not having those barriers. So, but by breaking them down and, like you said, Tauhira, look at them in the face. I mean, part of this is having the difficult conversations and being open to it. But it's funny because every one of the times I give it or you give it to here, we always get that feedback of there's more. And I think that's awesome. There always is more. That's the Rick Kahn, yes, and yeah, and what's next. And that's kind of why I wanted to throw it to you, Josh, and talk about, we got to get more diverse in all the areas. And you guys are using data scientists for a lot of what you're driving at Nika.
Yeah, and let me say a couple of things here. One thing about diversity that's so important, there's an amazing Hidden Brain podcast about diversity and how they've taken different types of research projects out there, and whether it's finding a vaccine, whether it's coming up and solving a very complex problem, having a diverse team that tackles these problems, it's proven that it is exceptionally better when you have diverse backgrounds working together in a group. It's been proven over and over and over at many levels. And I will say, we have an amazing leader at Nika who is all about diversity and really pushing this to another level. And I think it has resulted. I mean, if you just take our little innovation team, we come with a wide variety of backgrounds. Amanda Harbison, who is our director of research, she comes from biotechnology, and where she specialized in data with biotechnology. And Tauhira, Amanda, she's one of those people
She's phenomenal.
She is. She just yesterday she had to do some research for this Nika Live event that we're putting together, and I spoke to her at the end of the day, and her brain was fried. She was just looking at numbers all day long. But it was one of those things when you saw what she was able to put together in just a couple of days. It's amazing. When it comes to data, it's those unknown unknowns. We've talked about that, and I was talking about that Donald Rumsfeld quote that's out there, that it's the unknown unknowns. It's the deeper you dig every time, it's amazing how much more your questions evolve, and you start to see things in a different way. And as we industrialize this industry and we start to look at what that means, and we bring in the electrician, let me use them, they start to look more like a technician. And as we start to think about bringing in industrial engineers into this industry, we start to bring in people that specialize in logistics. It's going to change our whole mindset around this manufacturing approach. And that's where we've got to start going, is we've got to start reaching outside of our industry. Like Travis was saying, like we all know now. I think a lot of us have we need some outside influences. We need some outside knowledge, and we need someone in that room with us saying, Trent, Trent, that fires Trent off, because now Trent's got a new idea that he had not thought of, that takes it to a whole nother level, that inspires Jonathan to think about something new, that how he's going to approach this in a different way, because it's different. It's a different way of thinking. And I do believe data is going to be, that's the future of our industry as we industrialize.
Tauhira, it looked like you wanted to jump in on that one, because I know you guys are using it and you're using it. We've talked about how you use data to drive decisions.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the things that's really powerful is, right, that diversity of background, right? That diversity of expertise, whether you have a data scientist or you have, IT professionals who are looking at things a different way. But also even, one of the best BDC teams in the country that I'm aware of, they got as far as they got because they happened to hire a video game designer, someone with blue hair who started out as a video game designer, and they hired him in and they brought him in and he did layout. And so he was doing layout for 4 years. And all of a sudden, when VDC comes around, hey, they're trying to figure out what the heck to do, or when virtual reality comes around, they're trying to figure out how to, what do we do to make people these immersive environments. And oh, we happen to have someone who now has construction expertise, but oh, by the way, they also have the ability to create a 3D world. So it's just, the skills and being able to bring them together. Like it's, before I worked for the construction industry, I was designing neural networks and doing machine learning for rocket ships, for helicopters. And when I came to Milwaukee, as many of you know, my first projects were the calculus behind the thumb wheel on the adjustable wrench. But it's how you're able to apply these really critical things to be able to make the best tools for the job. And that's what you get when you expand and when you allow more people to be able to challenge themselves in the industry.
And you hit on a critical one. Jonathan, look like you got something there.
I was going to say, I just started working with some video game designers about 6 months ago, and I have learned so much working with them for 6 months, because what they thought was easy, I thought was difficult, and what I thought was going to be, it was, and I've kind of let them have their own reign to do some new stuff. And as they've been doing new stuff, I've been watching them like, that's way better than what I would have done, and it's not because they're not exposed to the echo chamber, and they really do have sort of a separate way of thinking about things. And I think that's great. Like I've been over the last 6 months also talking to a lot of people overseas about some of the ways that they're building, and they're like, oh, we're so far behind you in the US. And I'm like, no, you're not in the ways you think. Like half of the things you're doing are so far beyond us. So it's just really interesting to see how, as we start to sort of tie in a couple extra industries, how huge that impact is. It's just, it's so dramatic.
Well, it's funny, you got the BIM UK mandate, and I was talking to somebody from the UK, and I'm like, well, you guys got it all right. And he's like, no, you guys got it all right. And I'm like, I think everybody's lying to each other. Nobody has this thing licked yet. But I can't let this one go, because Travis hit on it, Tauhira, you hit on it, and the blue hair and the diversity, something too, like we can't ignore, and we don't over talk about COVID right now here, but like construction's still a cornerstone of the economy. It's one of the things that's keeping this sucker moving right now and moving forward and giving people jobs, and it's actually creating new jobs, et cetera. And I think it's our opportunity to grab, I don't care, blue hair, I don't care, nose rings, I really don't care. I don't care what your background is from that perspective. And if you look, it is a global industry. I mean, I came from a masonry background, had a lot of people that we brought in on J1 visas to work with us. Yeah, there was a language barrier, but good old Siri helped me bridge that gap and really work with them and learn. And we have an opportunity to be this very diverse, very inviting, very open group, but we still have some barriers to overcome. And I hope this group as a whole can help break down those barriers, because what I think I find so unique is really none of us is looking at that in the room. We're really just talking in the room. And what I'd love to know, like, is any of you guys is how do we get those, well, I called you two the adults, Tauhira and Josh, but I guess the adults above the adults, how do we get the grandparents to figure out that this is a powerful opportunity in the industry?
Well, I think what's really powerful too is the labor shortage, right? It's this, like we have over 50% of the population in the US is female, but we have 9% of the workers in construction are actually female versus male. And then when you look at the actual trades, it's 3%. So, and that's, that's something that, whether you think about it in terms of this pandemic, or you even spread it out even more to just the labor shortage we've been dealing with, this is an opportunity to bring more people in. And this is where, and Jeff, you and I talked about this yesterday. the ability to be an advocate is not limited to who you are and what your experiences are. It's just limited to your ability to see a vision of what the future could be. And so by each of us being there to help others come into the industry, by being able to help others be able to make valid contributions, what you allow us to do is to not just talk about it, but actually show and demonstrate the change that people can make, whether it's people of color, whether it's people of hair color, whether it's people of gender, you know, everyone can bring something to this. And so that's the exciting thing, is that we are the catalyst for that change. We are the ones who can make the adults, but also, you know, the youngsters, to use a term that really makes me seem like an old lady, but bring everyone in.
Well, I think that one things that I would say I like about this group is, you know, even as, you know, like Nathan said, we're kind of struggling through our adolescence as the Dorks blossom into this force or whatever it is. But, you know, we are trying to work on the PR problem that, like I mentioned, I think we're all trying to positively promote construction outside of our own walls to draw more people in. But this group, I hear Joe Rogan say this word all the time, is a true meritocracy. If you know what the heck you're talking about, we don't care. We're going to draw you in and we're going to introduce you to all of our people. And hopefully that groundswell just keeps going and going and going. And then there's that critical mass that people just can't help but hear.
Right. Yeah. So I think I wanted to real quick when we were on, so like the real value of diversity, right, is the diversity of ideas, right? Like no matter what, you know, where they or where people come from or background, environment, anything, you know, what we're really looking for is the diversity of ideas. And that's what you get when you achieve that. And, you know, sorry, I forgot my idea now. Golly.
You know, Trent,
What happens when you sit around long enough? And
It's okay, Trent, we got you.
Yeah.
Trent, you're drinking a double IPA, double hop.
Is that what it is?
It is. It happens. It happens.
Call
Oh,
that
I was-
the
I
double
was-
eraser.
yeah, I was going to talk about Tauhira, how she talked about the labor shortage. And what we've done for that is technology has actually allowed us to combat that. You know, we see more of our work going to the fab shop. We see more to be able to keep these buildings on time, you know, on budget. And the only way we achieve that is through the technology that we're teaching ourselves. So that's why we got
technology can be an enabler for some people that wouldn't fit into a more of a traditional role.
Yeah, I do want to point out a black eye, though.
Safer.
Yeah.
I do want to point out a black eye, though, that's still on there. And I do think this is one of the reasons that we've not progressed as quickly in the industry is while the field is, we've talked about how important it is, there's not enough diversity in the field. At the worker level, that is where we lack a lot of diversity. And it's something that we have to improve because, you know, it's come a long way. It's come a long way in my 21 years in this industry. And I can tell you that I'm optimistic about what I see. And we're going to see an acceleration of this. But I think it goes back, as Travis was saying, hey, democracy, that is the way we believe. We have to bring the field along. We have to work with them. And there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. And there is clicks, and we all know it. We all know it. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do is help bring them along and expose them. And listen, you've getting back into the weeds, like you said, Jonathan, earlier, that's where we all cut our teeth in the weeds. I mean, Tauhira was a thumb wheel. That's as in the weeds and as you can possibly be. But as you think about this, it's a lot of the skills we developed early in our career, doing training on ArchiCAD, on Revit, on Bluebeam. You start to learn. You think you're going to go in and do an 8-hour day of training with a project manager on Bluebeam. They'll smack you down so fast and tell you, get out of here. I don't have time for you. But if you give them 15 minutes, they want 30 minutes next time. Then they want 45 minutes next time. Then they want an hour. And you start to build trust. I cut my teeth a lot in job trailers doing 3D modeling with a sprinkler fitter telling me, you run, nobody would ever do it that way. Well, show me how you do it. And then the duct guy would come in there like, you moron, that's not how you do it. It's like, it built a lot of character, and it's something that we have to be that Jeff, that down the door and bringing someone in like, just shut up. You trust me, right? this person with the blue hair, this person with this, shut up. You trust me, right? Shut up and listen to this person with blue hair, and you'll learn something for a minute. If you'll give them a chance, learn from you too, and we can all get better. So I think that's kind of an evolving role. I know, Jonathan, you've worked on that. Trent, I know you deal with that. Travis, you're dealing with that day in and day out. Those are things that we have to do right now as our group is gain that trust of those people that are less likely to be open and be as open to diversity and do what we can. So
I agree with you, Josh. And, it's funny. I sat in, I think it was an MCAA talk, and it was about hiring. And we're in this, I can't tell you how many of these we've been on where we hear labor shortage, labor shortage, labor shortage. It's like, this is not a fact people don't know, but yet our hiring managers are arms crossed. What are you going to do for me? You're not cut for this industry. And I feel like we get that there. And so how do we change that? But also then consistently, I'm hearing this about the field and bringing the field in, but I think we're really failing in that. I think we're even failing in understanding it. Isn't it Dato who, tells the story about going on to a paperless job site, and then it turns out that he taps him on the shoulder, says, come back tomorrow. And then they come back tomorrow and all the paper fell out of everywhere. And it was like, because none of that works. So how do we expose that and open it up? And, I think we have to look to folks. How do we do that? How do we get those arms to uncross? How do we get the field to say, yeah, we don't like it, so we can fix it?
I think a big part of it too is also similar to when you're trying to get new technology adopted, or you're trying to try a new idea or a new solution. We can't be the only champions, right? We can't be the only ones who are the champions, and we can't be the only ones who are trying to kick the door open. So it's how you can figure out those people who are already in the field, who are already thriving, and turn them into the champions and the advocates. So, one step is bringing people in, but another is pairing them up with those who have more education or more experience or more of a background being seasoned in the trades. And you can be an advocate all you want, but at the end of the day, let's face it, we all work out of offices for most of our workday. So what can we do to get those in the field to be the advocates themselves and be the ones who are proponents, not just for the technology, but for the new people, for those people who, again, are hungry, who want to have the ability to prove themselves. Like one of the big pieces of diversity that we haven't yet mentioned today is age diversity, right? There's different things that motivate different generations or different, ages and people. And especially now more than ever, the ability to be trained, the ability to have mentors, the ability to get recognition, and the ability to know that you're being invested in and that you're growing. Those are things that all of the folks entering the workforce today are hungry for, are thirsty for. And so that's what, allows us to take some of this tribal knowledge and pass it down.
One thing about that, Tauhira, I think that is something I have learned in my career. We're not looking for those people that are following their passion in this industry. We're looking for the people that are actually willing to put their passion in their back pocket and take it with them everywhere they go. Those are the ones that really succeed in this industry. Is that it's not all pretty. We've got to do some really tough lifting at times to break down some of these barriers and to get them to buy into some of our ideas that we have. And I think that's a very important part of this process is looking at this group here, you put your passion in your back pocket and you take it with everything that you do, whether it's parenting, whether it's whatever. I know all of you and I think that's something we need to continue to look for, those people, not looking for that glorious thing, because it's not always pretty here.
No, it's really a lot of work here, and it's pretty cool because too, like we're having this fun conversation, but yet most of us are chatting as well throughout here, and it's like Trevor Owen, yes, bring them into the weeds with you, gives them a sense of ownership as well, especially when you walk on a site with a robot. Trevor, I need to go on a site with you with a robot soon when that's legit, so I can really do that, because that's pretty awesome. And then I was actually going to mention cognitive dissonance, and then Nathan put in cognitive plasticity, because it's this, that's that ability for us to like move around. But for me, it's really about like being able to take that negative feedback. I think something that doesn't come across very often in the Dorkcast, and maybe we should try and figure this out, guys. So this is like a planning session as well, is we do disagree with each other. We have sat and vehemently argued as a group. Jonathan, I'm going to call you out. You and I had a whole discussion about scale in IT and IT being a pain in the butt and being the negative, and me being on the exact opposite side. And I was like, we need to get on that stage and have it, but we do have it. And I think, that ability to listen to dissension, people, I'm guilty of this. Like I struggle because I'm critical that I'm calling people's baby ugly and I'm not doing it nicely, but it's really about being cognitively dissident and talking. Like we have to, no matter what it is we're doing, whether it's Trent in a VDC procedure and something he's asking the field to do, if it's not working, he has to be ready to take that feedback. And I don't know that we show that enough, that really does happen here. I mean, Jonathan, I was picking on you, but you remember that?
I remember that. And I think there's a big values disconnect. I actually have a really good, I know we're not supposed to mention the companies, but it's a Milwaukee tool story. I was sitting in an airport. I'm sitting in an airport in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm wearing this shirt that says I'm a construction technologist. And there's this electrical guy. Josh has just become the head of NECA. He's sitting beside me. He goes, "Oh, construction tech." And he says, "Yeah, I love the tools." And I'm thinking he's going to talk about a Faro or Trimble or, something high tech. He's like, "No, I got this crimper, you see." And I was like, and he's got Josh's accent as he's telling me it. So he's like actually, he says, "What? It used to be gas power. Every day I would go home and my clothes would smell like gasoline every day." And he kept rising and rising in tone until he was preaching at me about how wonderful technology is because his shirt doesn't smell like gasoline when he gets home. And his back doesn't hurt because he's pulling gasoline off a truck. And I think it's one of the disconnects that I had is I came out of EDC. I did go to the field a lot, but when I went to the field, I went with these super high-tech tools. And I did not think about the tool that's getting used 100 times a day. And I did not see that tech in that advantage. Because while not to not love the clean smelling shirt, but he also said he doesn't have to get gas and all of these other things. I'm thinking, I don't put that in my workflow that you can cut, all this time if you put some different styles of tech out there. So I just didn't understand his value. Like my values were way over here, and he's talking about is basically his standard of living on the job site is improved by technology. And I was like, if I can improve your standard of living on the job site with technology, I guarantee you every time you'll say yes. So I've been looking ever since I had that conversation with that guy. I've been looking for like those little things that change the lifestyle on the job site. Yeah. It makes it better, makes it easier.
And that's what makes you better than the average VDC man, Jonathan, because that's where the rubber meets the road, right? I mean, that's the kind of return that pays itself over and over and over. Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's also the power too of something like, again, making something ergonomic is just as important as making something mentally easier in a workflow. Yeah. Or, like when you look at, again, part of what hopefully makes me a good advocate for this industry, which is always something I'm working on improving, is the fact that I spent, days and days designing lights in the dark, because you have to be able to design a light that can work whether you're reading black and white plans or whether you're looking at green or blue wires or whether you're looking at drawings, right? And so it's all about the ergonomics. It's, am I working overhead? Am I working at table height? How many of us have innovated by setting up a table so people aren't, working off the ground or aren't working, at height? So it's all about all of the pieces coming together.
It's such a cool piece of it. And, we only have a couple of minutes left and, we did bring the adults on. Or I would call you like that forward thinking version of the Dorks. Like we're all connected to it, but I want to get an opportunity for both of you to kind of talk about where you see it going. And, if you had the perfect plan for what the construction Dorks would be doing in 5 years, Josh, what did it look like?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that we start to get to a point where maybe we can move a little faster. I think that's one thing about all of us. We to be where we're at, good listening skills, have patience. The fact that as we start to look, I always, you go back to 2008, you look at how 2008 and that downturn, the hit to the economy and our industry, how it pushed so much technology forward at an accelerated rate. I'm optimistic that this pandemic is going to do something very similar and create a sense of urgency and allow us to jump forward. What I'm most excited about is how the conversations are going to evolve. What we're talking about today and is that we're talking about right now, how we're going to be having new conversations that we really can't even envision as we start to experience different workflows. I think we're going to see a breakdown of barriers and silos. And we're going to see mechanical contractors talking more freely to electrical contractors. We're going to see electrical contractors having more conversations directly with the engineers. The contracts are going to be built initially to not cause conflict. That it's, I guess what I'm saying here is more of a kumbaya kind of utopia. I really do believe we're going to see walls and barriers broken down that allow us to get work done and have conversations about, hey, why are you producing? Don't worry about drawing that. We're going to have to redo that anyway. So stop producing that. We call it design for bid versus design for. I've kind of started altering that a little bit, like design for permit to design to installation. Stop doing that. Let's work together. Let's put these things together and let's do what makes sense. And I think that's what we're going to be doing more of is is common sense. There's a lot of things that do not make sense in our industry today. The contracts are broken. The way that we're positioned to come in at an adverse level, I really believe that's what's going to change the most that we're going to see in the next 4 to 5 years. I think it's going to be how we work together. It's not going to be the technology. It's going to be quality of life, Jonathan. It's going to be what makes us all better. And if we can all talk about measured mile, if we can use that today, the electricians are speaking Spanish, the sheet metal contractors are speaking Portuguese, the mechanical contractors are speaking French. If we can start thinking measured mile and thinking of more of the mathematics side around this and how we operate our business, now we're sitting here and we're starting to get that language coming together. So I think that's where we're going to see it go.
That's a big one to follow, Tauhira, but I know you've got a lot that probably triggered a little bit more too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think what Josh is painting this picture, it's this whole idea of even from this pandemic, from this all of the movements that are making us feel more disconnected. It's the idea of how do we become more connected, right? We've talked about connected job sites, we've talked about connected data lakes, all these pieces, but it's about how do we not just connect with each other, which has been a major theme of the podcast so far, but also how do you connect with the field? How do you connect with bringing more people into the industry? And how do you connect with solving these major problems in a way that allows us to all move faster? So to me, like, again, my big focus is connectivity, but I don't mean, throwing internet on a job site. I don't mean throwing Bluetooth on a job site. I don't mean throwing all your data and your information in one repository. What I mean is all of these things, right? And so that's what I think is most exciting, is that whether you're talking the people conversation or the process conversation, or you're talking the best practices, it's all there. And so that for me is my big hope for this group and for what we can do together.
Well, there's really nothing else we can say to follow that one up. Tauhira and Josh, I want to thank both you guys for joining us today. I know for me in the next 5 years, I just want to continue to be around such incredible people as all of you and those who are joining us listening here and those who are joining us listening into their living rooms, wherever they are. It's really, truly a treat. And this is a pleasure and something that it brings far more joy to me than I get out of than I could possibly believe I give back into it. So, Travis, Jonathan, Trent, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of it. And to you great people, Tauhira and Josh, follow them out there on social media. Follow the hashtag Construction Dorks. Spread the word. And my challenge to all of you is bring one more person virtually with you next week, whether it's from your company or from your backyard or just your neighbor, and make them listen to the Dorks Dork Out. Thanks for joining us all today, and we will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.